So Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, set off the screening machine, and they wanted to do a full pat-down, and he declined, and all heck broke loose over this. What do you think about this?
Well, I was really glad that he refused. I think it's unnatural. I think it's wrong that people touch other people's private parts outside of special covenantal relationships. There was no real reason to do that. He offered to go back through the scanner.
Yeah.
And they refused. It's just a matter of routine, and they don't have real discretion. Thankfully, some common sense finally came about after an hour or two. I don't know how long it was, and they allowed him to go back through the scanner.
Didn't set it off.
And didn't set it off.
Of course, some of those scanners go off randomly. It might have been just a random deal.
Well, and that's what he said in one of the interviews that I saw, that although the TSA denies it, two people told him apparently that they do go off periodically so that they can do a pat-down anyway.
Of course, we know about this, Representative Simpson, because first Rand Paul himself tweeted about it, and then his dad, Ron Paul, tweeted about it, and a lot of controversy about the TSA. This certainly feeds into that. Ron Paul's comments on this referred to the police state in which we live. Do you agree, referencing that not just the TSA, but other what he perceives to be intrusions on our liberty as citizens? You think that's too strong a phrase, or do you agree with that?
Well, I like to refer to de Tocqueville, the French historian, came here in 1835 to study our prisons. And he said the despotism that would come to democracies would be more mild but more extensive. It wouldn't torment men, but it would demean them. And he said he didn't fear tyrants, but he feared guardians. And I think that's where we're headed. Mm-hmm. There's a place for rules when you're a minor. Don't cross the street to go get the ball. Yeah. But when you're an adult, you take those rules away. Yeah. And I think we've gone too far, and government is treating adult citizens as minors.
Of course, the argument, Representative Simpson, is that it's a small price to pay in exchange for our safety. The theory here is that the institution of these regulations at airports around the country, which we're all subjected to, it's not just U.S. senators, it's everybody, this is the small price we pay in exchange for ensuring that an event like 9/11 or something not quite as horrific but still pretty terrible doesn't happen again.
And that assumes that the TSA is really effective. 5 times last spring, a TSA undercover agent went through the scanners in DFW Airport and was undetected. So I think it's more about the appearance of security than real security. And the real grief is it's not just Senator Rand Paul, but it's 95-year-old grandmothers, it's handicapped children, it's people with a urine bag that are being humiliated, and they're not, obviously they're not terrorists. We're wasting tons of taxpayer dollars, really not making us any safer.
Now, Representative Simpson, you made your name in a couple of ways as a first-term member of the legislature in the last session, but maybe on no issue greater than this one. You were quite passionate about pushing for a so-called anti-groping bill. What would the state of Texas or such a bill really have done? How could it have impacted the federal government's imposition of these standards on all of us? What could we have done in Texas, practically speaking, had such a bill passed?
Well, I think it wasn't going to stop all searches, but it just said you can't go to third base without a reason. You can't touch someone's private parts unless you have probable cause. Law enforcement agents cannot do that right now. And we're giving bureaucrats who have not been trained like law enforcement officers this ability to routinely do this, to treat travelers as criminals. We have to draw a reasonable line somewhere. And I thought, and the people of Texas thought, that the private parts were a place to do that. And you could say, well, a body cavity. The scanners are not going to be effective against stopping explosives in a body cavity.
Well, I guess as a practical matter, Mr. Simpson, I'm wondering if really we were in a position to pass legislation here that would have been able to impose penalties on employees of the federal government for what you're describing, as a practical matter. Or was this more symbolic?
No, it wasn't symbolic. It was very serious. And it wasn't just directed at the TSA. It was any officer of the state or federal government that would basically do what is sexual harassment or assault under any other
So
circumstance.
Border Patrol would have been subject to the same things.
Well, but if they have a cause, there's a
Right.
reason to do that. If someone here illegally,
Yeah.
if they have a gun, I mean, we have those opportunities now, and it's not illegal. This would not, as they claimed, you know, make us less safe. I mean, there's thousands of planes every day coming in and out of
Right.
Texas where this is not being done.
How far do you extend this notion of elevating the issue of liberty ahead of what some perceive to be the need to ensure our safety? Do you oppose the Patriot Act at the federal level?
I do. I think it goes way beyond the Constitution. I believe it's unconstitutional.
Did you oppose the so-called warrantless wiretapping that the Bush administration instituted in the mid part of the last decade?
I think we need to uphold the Constitution and seek judges before we give bureaucrats and executive officers that authority, and that's why we have a judicial system.
You're with Ron Paul, in fact, on those latter two issues, as
I
well
would
as
be.
the TSA.